Hi, and welcome to this very special Impetus interview. Today we are joined by Sarah Ahannach, a postdoctorate researcher from the Department of Bioscience and Engineering at the University of Antwerp, but also one of the co-founders and project managers of the Isala project, which was the grand prize winner of last year's EU Citizen Science Award, or I should say 2023. We're still in this year just about, but today we'll be talking to Sarah a little bit about the project, a little bit of the history and where it's going in the future. So I just want to say thank you very much for joining us today, Sarah.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm very eager and excited.
So the Isala project is investigating women's health by using citizen science methodologies and producing this kind of map of vaginal microbiome from Europe and beyond. It's a super interesting topic and something that's become very interesting in the last decade or so, with kind of shifting perceptions of what microbiomes are good for, what they're bad for, and kind of this shift kind of towards kind of living with our microbiome rather than working against it, I suppose. I was just wondering if you could describe a little bit about your background and how you got into this area of research, I suppose.
Oh, okay. So I studied biomedical sciences with a minor in forensic sciences at the University of Leuven. And I got to the team of Professor Sarah Ahannach, who is the head investigator of the Isala project. And in our lab, we study lactobacilli and beneficial microbes. Our overarching theme is applied microbiology and biotechnology. So we are engineers, bioscience engineering, and we're looking for all kinds of solutions to everyday life issues. And in the lab, we focus on lactobacilli, lactic acid bacteria. And as we found out, is that the vagina has an over amount of lactobacilli, which you also can find in, for example, fermented foods and yogurt. But the vagina is an area that is under-researched, under-explored. Even in the last 4 decades, there haven't been any major advancements in the field with regard to vaginal infections and urinary tract infections, even though the WHO has been reporting an increase in infections. So that's one of the reasons why we thought this is a field that really needs more research and more attention, and inspired also the Isala project.
I suppose when kind of the layperson thinks about microbiome and its place within kind of the zeitgeist and kind of, well, popularization of science, I suppose, most people think of the gut biome, I suppose, and maybe not the other kind of biofilms or the areas where these colonies could exist. And it's really interesting to kind of consider kind of the overarching kind of impact that these microbacteria can have on health in various areas of the human body, I suppose. And you talk a little bit about the importance of looking at vaginal health. And yeah, over recent times, it's the idea of women's health or AFAB health, I suppose, has been sort of a taboo topic. I kind of can remember adverts back in the day where like period products and that sort of thing wouldn't mention the word periods, or would use blue kind of liquid instead of blood to kind of shy away from that area, I suppose. So I just wanted to kind of ask you about how this has been reflected in the realms of research and how that is kind of, how's that evolved in your area of research, I suppose?
Yeah, definitely. So the gut microbiome is one of the well-known and famous research fields, not just in layman, but also just in the microbiome field itself. You have lots of research teams all over the world that study a particular aspect of the gut microbiome, and it is a very important microbiome of our body. But the vaginal microbiome is also very crucial, not just for women, but also for their children and their partners. And that's something that we are really focusing on. The reason why is, or maybe let's just maybe move a step back, is actually we're not the only research team that focuses on the vaginal microbiome, but what we do see is that some of the teams that focus on the vaginal microbiome often focus on disease conditions, infectious conditions. But let's say our vision is also, if we don't know what's healthy, what are we kind of working towards? If you're like in a disease state, how did that person get into that state, and how do you get them back or towards another kind of optimal state? And a lot of academic research with regard to participants and human sampling is in collaboration with academic hospitals. It's easier, faster to work together with doctors and academic hospitals. But if you think about an average woman, does she go to the gynecologist in an academic hospital? Often the ones that go there have had an issue or haven't had or having an issue. It's not necessarily reflecting the reference or average population. So we were kind of wondering, like, okay, what is actually an average vaginal microbiome? What is your average person having? What kind of microbiome is that? And that's what inspired the Isala project and also our citizen science approach as well. So we wanted also to break the taboo in a scientific field, and not just with the citizens, but also for scientists to look broader, not just to look a little bit broader, because the vaginal microbiome is important to prevent vaginal infections, for successful fertilizations, for healthy pregnancies, so all kinds of aspects.
I suppose the research you're doing is more a lot of the kind of, when you go into the hospital and there's something wrong with you, you're not getting the natural kind of snapshot of what's kind of healthy or unhealthy. But with the work that you're doing, you're establishing sort of a natural baseline, or kind of the natural fluctuations between the populations of microbiome that you might see, I suppose.
Yeah, indeed.
Mm-hmm. And it's a really interesting approach to do this as a citizen science kind of affair. And from like doing my research into your project, you had somewhat quite humble kind of expectations to begin with kind of you were aiming to collect data from around 200 people, if that's correct. But you managed to get interest from like over 6,000 participants, which must just go to show that this is a very interested, like people are interested in, well, participating in citizen science, but also knowing this about themselves a little bit, and wanting to be part of this research, I suppose. It really seemed to resonate with women and AFAB people around, well, Europe and beyond, I suppose. That must have been a very exciting prospect, but a bit daunting, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were looking for 200 participants, and at that time, everyone was kind of like, oh, that's way too ambitious. You won't find that many women who would want to take their own vaginal sample. It's too much of a taboo topic. So we were like thinking, are we biased? Are we the only ones who think this is possible? So we put a lot of effort into our communication style, as you can see on our website. And then we launched the project in March 2020, was at the start of the pandemic. And within 10 days, we had 6,000 registrations. So we really had to stop the registrations because it was getting too much and we didn't have the funding to analyze all of them. Eventually, we shifted the project because it was first going to be a longitudinal flow. We made it a cross-sectional flow, so one sample per person, because we really wanted to have everyone who registered to be able to get a result and so on. And for us, it was also an assurance that it wasn't just our team thinking that the vaginal microbiome is under research, and maybe we heard from colleagues or funders that this is very ambitious to have 200 people. But if we look at society, everybody was waiting for a project like this. So we did feel like we were filling this unmet societal need into vaginal health.
And it just reminds me a little, this time last year around, I was reading a book called Invisible Women about data gaps within. Yeah, it's a very good book, but I imagine it's probably part of the reading, like quite a lot of people's reading material of late. But just very interesting to kind of like have a project that's sort of really engaging with trying to fill these medical data gaps that might have been overlooked in the past, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That's also one of our missions.
So with 6,000 participants, I suppose that was were these. This might be slightly a follow-up question. Did people, being part of the citizen science project, they were involved with taking their own samples and sending them off to you, of course. But how else were citizen scientists involved with the development of the project, or kind of in kind of the later stages, I suppose?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we we realize, and we think it's very important, that science doesn't happen from the academics, the ivory academic tower, spreading our research questions that might sometimes be out of touch or not necessary onto the world. We also realize that research teams should be diverse and should reflect society, but it's not easy to have a research team that will reflect each woman out there with particular, with their own reproductive or sexual history. So with citizen science, you kind of diversify your research team. Because if you would think about, like, if we say you have a team of 10 women or 10 people in a team, you won't have one with an abortion and a miscarriage and endometriosis and PCOS and so on. So that was for us very important to have this input, this perspective, these research areas, because that's also one of the research in gender medicine. Women were not included into clinical trials, because if we only had men, who was going to think about the menstrual cycle, for example, if you don't have a uterus? With that in mind, we had different levels of citizen science that you could participate, because of course you cannot have focus talks with 6,000 women. We didn't have the means necessary, even though we would love to have done it. So we had minimal involvement, more advanced involvement, more co-creational involvement. And then you have smaller teams and focus groups that are very part of the study design. But also with our social media, we have now a larger team that really pick up all kinds of questions and ideas on research via social media, but also via outreach activities. We go to all kinds of events. So we have a whole booth and people can write up their ideas that we take with us. So it's kind of a combination of outreach events, online platforms where people can ask their questions. We have an advisory board where also citizens can be part of. And then you also have indeed, sample collection and data collection. But people can also write a blog, for example, for the website. It's not necessarily has to be a scientist that writes a blog.
No, that's super interesting. And yeah, just great to hear that there were so many people interested and wanted to get involved. Isla has two sister projects, the Laura and Marie project, I believe. Was this always something that you wanted to expand into, or was this something that kind of came about with such high interest in the project kind of at the beginning stages, perhaps?
Well, actually, we have now almost 16 sister
projects.
That's okay, because we were also surprised by it again. Well, it wasn't the plan, because we didn't, like I said, we didn't have the funding. A lot of Isala is on voluntary basis, because it's really a passion project, I would say, and you don't hear that a lot about scientific projects. So with Isala, we decided to communicate about our results before they were published in a peer review article. So right now, Isala's first results are published in Nature Microbiology, but it takes quite some time to go through the process of peer review, which is necessary, but then everybody has to wait for results. So immediately when we started analyzing the results, we went to conferences, went to science, popular science events. We went online podcasts and so on. Really tried to be on different media channels, on social media as well. And then sometimes researchers would come up to us and be like, "Hey, I kind of want to also do this in my country." And we were like, "Sure, why not?" But we were also of the opinion that we put a lot of effort into setting up Isala and figuring this out and the logistics, that we didn't want them to go through this all alone. We really wanted to help accelerate their project. So we said, okay, we want to share our protocols, share our communication style, also infographics and so on, because you also pay quite a lot for a graphic designer. And then we said, they said, "Oh, we kind of also want to be connected with you." And then we started the Isala Sisterhood, where projects in all kinds of countries can be set up. It's all bottom up, so it's all their own initiative. We don't reach out actually to countries or researchers, but they kind of get they get the inspiration themselves, and they choose actually the vaginal health topic that is relevant for their country. They also choose their name, so they name the project after their role model, so that people also they can have an emotional connection, and it's inspired by Isala. Like, Isala is named after our first female physician in Belgium, who was an activist and a role model and a feminist and so on. And then the cool thing is that we also focus on capacity building in low middle income countries or smaller labs all around the world, and try to create this network of different sister projects all over the world, where early career researchers can travel to different sisters and learn from them and take the knowledge and come back and apply it in their country. And we hope also through standardized scientific approaches that in a few years we can, instead of like we're doing now, mapping the vaginal microbiome in Belgium, we can map the vaginal microbiome in the world. And that would be really cool to have like this vaginal microbiome atlas. And then I really like, also this is also an important goal, is to not have all science to be Eurocentric, to really have to take the knowledge from women all over the world, like the samples and the impact of ethics, lifestyles, and so on, and not just in Europe and the Western world.
No, that's super fantastic. And it seems like Isala is kind of providing this framework to create a network of very similar kind of research going on around the world, I suppose.
Yeah, that's our goal, and it's like I said, again, by surprise, and it's fun. It's fun because it's growing along the way with ideas of everyone, and I really like the collaborative style that we have in the Isala Sisterhood. We're learning a lot from everyone, so everyone is learning from each other, and that's really important. The utmost respect for also the population as well and the culture.
It's interesting that you say kind of like having an atlas kind of kind of vaginal health, and that's microbiome. At what stage of your research are you in? Have you started collecting kind of baselines? Kind of, I know that you've done work across Belgium and across Europe, but also in Peru. Are you noticing anything kind of interesting from these results, I suppose? Is there, I don't know, any surprises about species composition or stuff that you see perhaps in European countries rather than perhaps Peru? Is there anything like, or is there mostly kind of like a base kind of microbial fingerprint that kind of you see in vaginal health?
Well, it's a good question, actually. So we launched Isala in 2020, so it's only been almost 4 years. So within our own team, we have a few Isala flows already. So we had the cross-sectional flow, we did the longitudinal flow following women over menstrual cycles. We're studying mothers and daughters and grandmothers. We have all kinds of intervention studies, like different daughter projects, studying menstrual hygiene, studying sexual intercourse, diet, and so on. So that's within here in Belgium. And then the sister projects, they all have their focus, as I said before, and they are all at their different status. So some are being set up looking for funding, but already starting on science communication and community building and outreach and more survey level. And some sister projects are already starting with the sampling. I think the first sister project was the Laura project in Peru. So they are currently the farthest with results. They are in their second phase. So in the first phase, we studied the vaginal microbiome in the Amazon, in the highland, and at the coast. So 3 geographical regions. So I won't be able to go a lot into detail because we're analyzing the data and drawing up the manuscript. But you can already indeed see that some species are higher abundant and more present in Peru than compared to samples in Belgium, which supports the notion to have these sister projects all over the world. We also see just other uses of like different diets, different personal hygiene, different contraceptive use that pop up and also have an impact on the vaginal microbiome, but also the impact of having children, which is also different in different countries. Some women start younger, some older, that will have an impact. So it's also the species presence, but also the correlation with life course, lifestyle, and environmental factors. So I hope soon in the coming years, you will be hearing news of the different sister projects, and then, just keep following, I would say.
No, that's fantastic. Yeah. Kind of going back to the top of the interview, we mentioned that Isala was the first winner of the EU Citizen Size for Citizen Science, which is run kind of in partnership with the Impetus project. I was just wondering if you could talk about what it was like to have your work recognized on such a level. You've talked a little bit about the expansion that happened just under your own steam a little bit, but I just wanted to ask you if, winning this prize has had what positive impact it's had on your research and the project as a whole.
Yeah, it was amazing. Our whole team and everyone was really over the moon, because it's really nice to be appreciated also for your citizen science and science communication, because a lot of time and effort goes into it. And of course, you get like passion and energy back from your citizens, but the academic community is not always aware or already far along to appreciate citizen science and science communication. So it's nice. It was really nice for the team, like all the time and effort that goes into it, that this is also being recognized and their hard work as well. So that was really amazing, and also winning the prize, I think, put us even more on the map. So we did during the arts festival, we got a lot of like people that say, oh, we really want to collaborate, or also artists, which is really nice because we really want to have this multidisciplinary approach to vaginal health. So all kinds of new connections that came forward. That was really cool as well. And also the prize money will help us to capacity build in the sister projects that are in low middle income countries, so we can support them a bit, but also our science communication, because not a lot of budget can be allocated to science communication when we apply for scientific grants. So we have to do a lot of things voluntarily, but we also want to work together with artists and fairly compensate them for their work. So also on that aspect, it really is like a big boost for our project.
No, it sounds very exciting and very kind of like it seemed like it was just an opportunity to network within the wider scope of citizen science and kind of the arts and science kind of ecosystem, I suppose. And yeah, help develop kind of you can use kind of these resources to help your network and also kind of build within this community of people that, yeah, have obviously kind of very positively kind of embraced kind of the ideals around your project, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just a perfect opportunity. We were really surprised also. And also it felt an honor because all the other projects, they were so amazing. And it felt like you were like in between all the grants and the amazing like citizen science projects. It was just an honor to get to know other citizen science projects, learn from them as well. We got a lot of inspiration actually on how we can adapt and do better and change and so on. So that was that was great.
No, that's fantastic. Yeah, and yeah, it was great to learn more about your project I'm relatively new to the IMPETUS project, but it was very interesting to learn in the kind of the run up to the award ceremony and kind of in the last few months. So yeah, it's been very interesting to learn about the work that you and the other prize winners and the honorable mentions that are yeah, come from the first call of prize winners, I suppose.
Great, thank you very much. Also, I want to do a shout out to our entire Isala research team, and all Isala participants, and just the community, the wider community, as well as our funders and everyone who believes in us, and the Isala sister projects all over the world, who are all supporters and just made this happen.
No, that's fantastic. Yeah. My last question, I suppose, we've spoken a little bit of what's happening kind of in the near future, but I just wanted to ask if there's any kind of, it's Christmas coming up, so perhaps nothing in the next couple of weeks, but what is like any events coming up or any exciting news for the Isala project that you'd like to share?
Well, actually, there's always news. The team has grown, so there's always something going on. I think before Christmas, we're kind of wrapping up, sharing our Christmas newsletter where we update everyone with their recent results and projects. So like I said, as you've heard about the sister projects, that's it's going on. Isala is a dynamic project, so we're not ending anytime soon. Just expanding. We have actually a few studies starting in 2024. That are all Isala's daughter projects. So we're studying vulvovaginal candidiasis, which is a fungal infection. We're studying the impact of menstrual hygiene products on the vaginal microbiome in different countries. So in Belgium, in Peru, in Cameroon, and also in Switzerland. So it's going to be between all the sister projects, studying the impact of diet and intermittent fasting on the vaginal microbiome, and also vitamins on the vaginal microbiome. So quite a lot of projects going on, very exciting. Something also that is really cool that we look forward to is our Isala symposium. So last year we organized the first symposium where we bring researchers and citizens from all over the world. And we're also doing that over the summer. And actually then there's all kinds of cool updates always going on, new things that we find out we'd like to share immediately. So
that all sounds very exciting, and do please keep us in the loop with any updates on research or events. I just want to say thank you very much for joining us today. It's been very interesting.
Thank you for your invitation. It was really an honor and always nice to talk about our passion project.
Thank you very much. Bye for now.
Bye.